Hello, my name is Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. It's time to review The Orville, Season 3, Episode 9, Domino. So, my usual format, I'm going to open with the full spoiler finishing of my thoughts for the previous episode, then go on to technical stuff about the current episode, and some mild spoiler talk about the current episode. Right. So, let's follow up with Episode 8. Picking up from where I stopped talking about spoilers, as I said, I predicted the plot for almost the entire remainder of the episode after that point. Once we didn't see any of the inspections by either side, and the Mocklin said that they found nothing, all that was really left was that the main plot had to involve something with Topa. Admittedly, it's kind of an art form required experience, but basically there was an accumulation of events that accumulated in Topa being told center of camera focus that she was to stay in the ship. Okay, not Bordis being center of the camera focus and just looking over and you see Topa looking at him from the side. Once Topa was the center of the camera, that's a cue to telling the audience that this is a significant thing being told right here, right now. Right? So Topa, once you saw that, basically you knew Topa wasn't going to stay in the ship. Right? So my first thought was that something would happen that involved one of the Mocklins attempting to hurt Topa or kidnap her for a forced sex change, which would lead to an incident where Bordis kills the dude. Okay. But we knew that Topa-centric, like I said, Susie was supposed to stay there, and she went outside anyway. And then, then the final key to that prediction, like 10 minutes after that, was when Havina recruited Topa for the resumption of the Underground Railroad for the Mocklin female infants. Okay. So when the Mocklins kidnapped Topa, I figured we'd get some kind of rescue mission, and then we'd get some sort of diplomatic angle. Now, before we go any further, let me finish up my thoughts on everything up to now. Okay, I think that the events of this episode, meaning like what we're talking, what happened at the end of the episode, happened way too soon. Okay, this would have been a great, maybe a great season finale for this season type of episode, or maybe a great like episode 2 of the 4th season. It just felt too soon to return to the storyline. I also find it suspect that they would send Bordis on this mission. He's a persona non grata on Mocklin, and his presence alone should have been considered an agitating factor. Okay? So on to the rest of it. Okay. So Havina decided to induct Topa into our new conspiracy to kidnap female Mocklin infants. That makes zero sense. Topa does not have the skill set to hide these communications. Okay. Now, had she not told Topa, but the necklace contains sort of nanites and infested the Orville and made it look like Topa was undoing it, that could have worked out pretty well, okay? But I guess, however, it's reasonable to assume that the Mocklins were using technology to listen in on the conversations. But Havina should have been smart enough to figure that part of it out, too. So let's move on, though, because that's, we had 2 main subplots that spawned. The Rescue Topa subplot and the Get the Union Involved subplot. For the Rescue Topa plot, this one started off on a bad foot. It was not very believable that the Mocklins are going to do what they did. Why not just blow up the Union shuttle? Okay. Instead, they somehow broke through Union security. Granted, being allies probably got them through some layers of it. So the Mocklins take Topa to a secret, secure facility, which seems to have no orbital defenses, even secret ones, no ground-to-air defenses, or like many people, or like not even a lot of people manning the gigantic place they went to. Okay. Now, again, understandable. The Union has this stealth technology that for some reason they ignore, even though they use it. But anyway, that's the future. And what was the commander thinking when he decided to execute her? He had to know that the Union knew that she had been taken. Interrogating her was one thing. Decided to kill her and dump the body was either writing-induced stupidity or plot-induced stupidity. The entire Mocklin political position is based on the strength that is their culture where people were being kidnapped from. Their culture is under attack, and it's a violation of their rights. That evaporates, as we saw at the end, when they're shown to have sanctioned kidnapping murder of someone who is not from their planet, basically. Technically, Topa is, but for all practical purposes, she is an exile. Okay? Now, to Get the Union Involved plot. Okay? This was more well done. Once again, it shows that Mercer shines as a character. Whether that's Seth writing, saying, make me look good, or just the nature of the writing staff, But most of the characters do really, written really well, so, I did suffer from the fact that no one is proposing any sane solutions to the scenario. Okay, The Mocklins should have been written as saying, no, they will not cooperate, but they will investigate and they will return Topa, saying that the actions were unsanctioned and turn the perpetrators over to the Union, and they will turn the perpetrators over to the Union for criminal trial. The Mocklins could smartly have been written as playing up the respect laws and return kidnapped children part of this, okay? Some great writing and acting for the Union leadership. You can see it. They knew the situation that Havina did basically fuck them over, okay? And the actors portrayed that very well. And the conclusion was inevitable given the events early in the episode. Mocklins began to secede from the Union. That was, you could see that building, and then the Union basically ejects them as they're in the process of doing that. You could just see the whole thing working its way through. That was where this entire sequence of Mocklin storylines was going. It happened way too fast, okay? Now it's happily surprised that Clyden returned. The assault on his daughter putting things into perspective for him. But I still wish Clyden would have a heart-to-heart with Topa about his and Bortus about his own similar situation. So where does it leave us? Well, if they're writing logically, the Kalan will be preparing to attack the Mocklins shortly after they separate from the Union. Why? Because the Mocklins are the biggest threat because of their industrial capability and their weapons. In fact, as soon as that messy divorce that happens that they mentioned in this episode, which logically should take months to a year or so, because all the cross, as soon as that happens, there should be a Kalan feat obliterating the Mocklin homeworld. Okay, that's logical writing. Okay? It would be cool if this whole thing would turn out to be a sneaky setup to lure the Kalans in. Well, then the shaky writing would have an explanation, but I don't think that the writing are that good. Okay? On a separate note, Dolly Parton's appearance in the show and use for a song Pure Gold, but again, any proper use of Dolly is because she's pure gold. On the production stuff, visually the team, they did another great job, both animating the space scenes and in choreographing them. No excessive stuff. Direction, there are some issues here. During editing near the end, they had cutting on way too much, and that happened that's been a common thing in a couple of these episodes where they kind of jump cut constantly between showing 30 seconds of one thing and 30 seconds of another thing. They're trying to give you the sense they're occurring at the same time. But when you jump around when you jump around too much, you lose track of the events in the thing you're jumping about. Not in the sense that you don't know what's happening, but remember, for a fantastical show or whatever to work, you have to be willing to suspend your disbelief on an emotional sense, not an intellectual sense. That's hard. That's a different thing. You have to be drawn into it, right? So when you jump into a scene and you're watching it, and you jump out before you could properly emotionally process it, and you jump to another scene and back again, it's breaking up your immersion factor. That's what I'm talking about here. On the writing, there were some issues here too, which I will talk about when I mention the plot element below. Okay. So now the plot review. Now we're on the mild spoiler plot review for episode 9. Okay. So this episode really should have been a two-parter. I understand that for contractual reasons, he had to produce 10 episodes, each with its own set of budgets, contracts, and so forth. But through the 9 episodes of The Orville so far, several episodes should have been split up and would have been better off if they had split them up. Okay? There's a natural separation point in this episode of approximately 38 minutes where the Orville leaves the place where they are and heads somewhere else, and I will let that kind of be my spoiler divider. So my mild spoilers will be for stuff before that, and I won't mention anything at all after that, even in mild spoilers, because it will, So this episode opened with the Mocklins going to Krill and making an alliance with the Krill. I called that after the expulsion, okay? Now consider this. We saw that Admiral Halsey said at the end of the last episode with regard to... I just talked about this, as a matter of fact, 5 minutes ago. Admiral Halsey said that this would be a messy divorce, a lot of entangled elements to withdraw, separate, joint commands to break up, security codes to change, and all that sort of stuff. This episode, logically, has to take like months, if not closer to a year, after the previous episode. However, I don't think the show's writers consider that because little else changed between these two episodes to indicate a significant amount of time has passed. Okay, we get one of the better cold humor moments in this show's history when the Mocklins show up at the Krill Chancellor's office. The Mocklin, they get to the point of saying who's going to command their new joint alliance, And the Mocklins say, well, it will be us naturally because you are female. And Talia responds, there's more dialogue in between here, but basically says to Malcolm, you've got a lot of balls for suggesting this. And the Mocklin ambassador answered the original question of who would be the commander, and he speaks in a dead serious tone. That is the only acceptable arrangement, which is a response both to the humor, to the balls comment, and to who should lead the alliance. But he delivered such a dead serious tone. It's a very great example of dry humor. Like they should study this particular scene for that reason alone when they're trying to teach writers how to do dry humor. Yeah. Now, they also mentioned that the Kalan are going to be attacking two worlds, one of which is Zelaya. I tend to pronounce things with an X, like a Z sound, but in this show they seem to be saying them like more like a soft S sound. Okay. Right after the opening theme, we open to the Union fleet readying a defensive line at Zelaya. The Kalan arrive, and then, long story short, aboard the Orville, Mercer gives the order to use a new weapon. Okay, this weapon basically destroys any Kalan other than Isaac and Timus. I wonder if the Kalan ships, like the new Battlestar Galactica Cylon fighters, were also basically members of the species in different form. That would explain why their ships explode as well. Okay, personally, I would have flipped these two scenes, open with the defense and the weapon use. Then after the theme song, have the scene with the Mocklins proposing alliance with the Krill, and change the dialogue to the Union just defended against the Kalan successfully at Selaya with a new weapon, and the Mocklins say they know, but the Union kept it secret from them, and Talia says, yeah, but I've taken steps to acquire it, or I've taken steps to solve that problem, I think opening with the space battle would have more impact. It's a much more heavy, it's a better, more emotional, impactful scene to see all those events going on. I'm not going to say who steals. Now on to the next point here. So I'm not going to say who steals the weapon. That's somewhat of a surprise. I was kind of thinking it would be one or two other people who would do it. It does seem a little bit dubious, that a weapon that can cause a whole species of at least 10 billion people and all of their technology to explode in the entire galaxy and beyond if you pump it with enough power is not under better security arrangements. In real life, even the president of the U.S. has legal limitations on the procedure to use nuclear weapons. For example, that require, in most cases, a second authorizing member of the government who is not the vice president. Okay? A minor annoyance too. Also, it's too late to change the show's canon per se, and I mean in the sense of the way they talk about technobabble. But the phrase "drops out of quantum" sounds funny, because technically, from a physics point of view, we're always in quantum. Like it's not like there's no quantum inside my body or this computer or your body or your desk or whatever. Everything quantum mechanics and relativity are equally present at all points in the universe at the same time. Maybe something like if they brainstorm, they could have had this dialogue. We are detecting a surge in the quantum field. Ships are about to emerge from FTL, or something like that. It would sounded a little better with respect to science than dropping out of quantum. I do like how Burke and Isaac move past their differences and are able to work together and so forth to produce the weapon. And it fits the theme of the Orville, which they talk about in the show, which is with the theme of the Union. And that's also right out of the concept of IDIC from the original Star Trek, that stands for Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations, which is a Vulcan principle, that vastly different beings, putting aside their differences, can accomplish things that would not be possible otherwise. I really want... Okay, so now... My final thoughts on this. This episode. This review's running a little long. I really wanted to like this episode more. Fundamentally, just like with the Tale of Two Topas and Midnight Blue, this episode's happening too soon. I said Midnight Blue would be a great season ender for season 3, and then this episode could have been built towards the course of season 4 and be the end of that. And if season 4 was the last season with a little tweaking, this would have been a great series ender. But it solved the big problem. There are a lot of great elements in the episode. However, there's a lot of really stupid things too. There are some really stupid, not a lot of them, which I'll elaborate on the full spoiler opener for episode 10. So I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. Okay, there was a potential for this to be a 10. Okay, even with it being too soon, I would have called it a 9.9 because of that. There was a potential with all they did in this episode, with the better pacing and all that, for most of it, but not quite the end of it. That this could have been a 10 or close to it as possible. Anyway. Comment down below if you have any questions for me or about this video. Please share your thoughts. Share this video if you enjoyed it. Like if you like. Dislike if you dislike. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. My name is Matt. This has been Unbearable 73. Have a nice day, and I am out of here.